The host said, "You have clearly seen the sutra passages that I have cited, and yet you can ask a question like that. Are they beyond the power of your mind to comprehend, or do you fail to understand the reasoning behind them? I certainly have no intention of censuring the sons of the Buddha. My only hatred is for the act of slandering the law. According to the Buddhist teachings, prior to Shakyamuni, slanderous monks would have incurred the death penalty. But since the time of Shakyamuni, the one who can endure, the giving of alms to slanderous monks is forbidden in the sutra teachings. Now, if all the 4 kinds of Buddhists within the 4 seas and the 10,000 lands would only cease giving alms to wicked priests and instead all come over to the side of the good, then how could any more troubles rise to plague us or disasters come to confront us?" With this, the guest moved off his mat in a gesture of respect, straightened the collar of his robe, and said, "The Buddhist teachings vary greatly, and it is difficult to investigate each doctrine in full. I have had many doubts and perplexities, and have been unable to distinguish right from wrong. Nevertheless, this work by the sage Honen, Nembusu chosen above all, does in fact exist, and it lumps together all the various Buddhas, sutras, bodhisattvas, and deities, and says that one should discard, close, ignore, and abandon them. The meaning of the text is perfectly clear, and as a result of this, the sages have departed from the nation. The benevolent deities have left their dwelling places. Hunger and thirst fill the world, and disease and pestilence spread widely. Now, by citing passages from a wide variety of scriptures, you have clearly demonstrated the rights and wrongs of the matter. Therefore, I have completely forsaken my earlier mistaken convictions, and my ears and eyes have been opened on point after point. There can be no doubt that all people, from the ruler on down to the general populace, rejoice in and desire the stability of the nation and the peace of the world. If we can quickly put an end to the alms that are given to these inchantikas and ensure that continuing support is instead given to the host of true priests and nuns, if we can still these white waves that trouble the ocean of the Buddha and cut down these green groves that overgrow the mountain of the law, then the world may become as peaceful as it was in the golden ages of Fuxi and Shennong, and the nation may flourish as it did under the sage rulers Yao and Shun. After that, there will be time to dip into the waters of the law and to decide which are shallow doctrines and which are deep, and to pay honor to the pillars and beams that support the house of the Buddha." The host exclaimed with delight, "The dove has changed into a hawk, the sparrow into a clam. How gratifying! You have associated with a friend in the orchid room and have become as straight as mugwort growing among hemp. If we will truly give consideration to the troubles I have been describing and put entire faith in these words of mine, then the winds will blow gently, the waves will be calm, and in no time at all we will enjoy bountiful harvests. But a person's heart may change with the times, and the nature of a thing may alter with its surroundings. Just as the moon on the water will be tossed about by the waves, or the soldiers in the vanguard will be cowed by the swords of the enemy. So, although at this moment you may say you believe in my words, I fear that later you will forget them completely. Now, if we wish first of all to bring security to the nation and to pray for our present and future lives, then we must hasten to examine and consider the situation and take measures as soon as possibly to remedy it. Why do I say this? Because of the 7 types of disasters described in the Medicine Master Sutra, 5 have already occurred. only two have yet to appear: the calamity of invasion from foreign lands and the calamity of revolt within one's own domain. And of the three calamities mentioned in the Great Collection Sutra, two have already made their appearance. Only one remains: the disasters of warfare. The different types of disasters and calamity enumerated in the Golden Light Sutra have arisen one after the other. Only that described as marauders from the other regions invading and plundering the nation has yet to materialize. This is the only trouble that has not yet come. And of the 7 disasters listed in the Benevolent King Sutra, 6 are now upon us in full force. Only one has not yet appeared: the calamity that occurs when enemies rise up on all 4 sides and invade the nation. Moreover, as the Benevolent King Sutra says, quote, "When a nation becomes disordered, it is the spirits that first show signs of rampancy. Because the spirits become rampant, all the people of the nation become disordered." Unquote. Now, if we examine the present situation carefully in the light of this passage, we will see that the various spirits have for some time been rampant, and many of the people have perished. If the first predicted misfortune in the sutra has already occurred, as is obvious, then how can we doubt that the later disaster will follow? If, in punishment for the evil doctrines that are upheld, the troubles that have yet to appear should fall upon us one after the other, then it will be too late to act, will it not? Emperors and kings have their foundation in the state and bring peace and order to the age. Ministers and commoners hold possession of their fields and gardens and supply the needs of the world. But if marauders come from other regions to invade the nation, or if revolt breaks out within the domain and people's lands are seized and plundered, how can there be anything but terror and confusion? If the nation is destroyed and people's homes are wiped out, then where can one flee for safety? If you care anything about your personal security, you should first of all pray for order and tranquility throughout the 4 quarters of the land, should you not? It seems to me that when people are in this world, they all fear what their lot may be in the life to come. So it is that they put their faith in distorted doctrines and pay honor to slanderous teachings. It distresses me that they should be so confused about right and wrong, and at the same time I feel pity that, having embraced Buddhism, they should have chosen the wrong kind. With the power of faith that is in their hearts, why must they recklessly give credence to distorted doctrines? If they do not shake off these delusions that they cling to, but continue to harbor erroneous views, then they will quickly leave this world of the living and surely fall into the hell of incessant suffering.
Thus, the Great Collection Sutra says, quote, "Though for countless existences in the past, the ruler of a state may have practiced the giving of alms, observed the precepts, and cultivated wisdom, if he sees that my teaching is in danger of perishing and stands idly by without doing anything to protect it, then all the inestimable roots of goodness that he has planted through the practices just mentioned will be entirely wiped out. Before long, the ruler will fall gravely ill, and after his life has come to an end, he will be reborn in the great hell, and the same fate will befall the ruler's consort, his heir, the high ministers of the state, the lords of cities, the village heads and generals, the magistrates of districts, and the other officials." Unquote.
The Benevolent King Sutra states, quote, "If persons destroy the teaching of the Buddha, they will have no filial sons, no harmony with their 6 kinds of relatives, and no aid from the heavenly deities and dragons. Disease and evil demons will come day after day to torment them. Disasters will descend on them incessantly, and misfortunes will dog them wherever they go. And when they die, they will fall into the realms of hell, hungry spirits and animals. Even if they should be reborn as human beings, they will be destined to become soldiers or slaves. Retribution will follow as an echo follows a sound, or a shadow follows a form. Someone writing at night may put out the lamp, but the words he has written will still remain. It is the same with the effect of the deeds we perform in the threefold world. Unquote. The second volume of the Lotus Sutra says, quote, if a person fails to have faith but instead slanders this sutra, when his life comes to an end, he will enter the Avicii hell. And in the never disparaging chapter in the 7th volume, it says, for 1,000 kalpas they underwent great suffering in the Avicii hell. In the Nirvana Sutra, we read, quote, if a person separates himself from good friends, refuses to listen to the correct teaching, and instead embraces evil teachings, then as a result he will sink down into the Avicii hell, where the size of his body will become 84,000 yojanas in the total length and breadth. Unquote. When we examine this wide variety of sutras, we find that they all stress how grave a matter it is to slander the correct teaching. How pitiful that people should all go out of the gate of the correct teaching and enter so deep into the prison of these distorted doctrines. How stupid that they should fall one after another into the snares of these evil doctrines and remain for so long entangled in this net of slanderous teachings. They lose their way in these mists and miyamas and sink down amid the raging flames of hell. How could one not grieve? How could one not suffer? Therefore, you must quickly reform the tenets that you hold in your heart and embrace the one true vehicle, the single good doctrine of the Lotus Sutra. If you do so, then the threefold world will become the Buddha land. And how could a Buddha land ever decline? The regions in the 10 directions will all become treasure realms. And how could a treasure realm ever suffer harm? If you live in a country that knows no decline or diminution, in a land that suffers no harm or disruption, then your body will find peace and security, and your mind will be calm and untroubled. You must believe my words. Heed what I say. The guest said, since it concerns both this life and the lives to come, who could fail to be cautious in a matter such as this? Who could fail to agree with you? Now, when I examine the passages you have cited from the sutras and see exactly what the Buddha has said, I realize that slandering the law is a very grave fault indeed, that violating the law is in truth a terrible offense. I have put all my faith in one Buddha alone, Amida, and rejected all the other Buddhas. I have honored the 3 Pure Land Sutras and set aside the other sutras, but this was not due to any distorted ideas of my own conception. I was simply obeying the words of the eminent men of the past, and the same is true of all the other persons in the 10 directions. But now I realize that to do so means to exhaust oneself in futile efforts in this life and to fall into the Avicii hell in the life to come. The texts you have cited are perfectly clear on this point, and their arguments are detailed. They leave no room for doubt. From now on, with your kind instruction to guide me, I wish to continue dispelling the ignorance from my mind. I hope we may set about as quickly as possible, taking measures to deal with these slanders against the law and to bring peace to the world without delay, thus ensuring that we may live in safety in this life and enjoy good fortune in the life to come. But it is not enough that I alone should accept and have faith in your words. We must see to it that others as well are warned of their errors. Background. On the 28th day of the fourth month, 1253, Nichiren Daishonin established the teaching of Nam-myoho-renge-kyo at Seichō-ji temple in his native province of Awa, and later he returned to Kamakura, the seat of the military government, to begin propagation. In examining the records, we find that in those days, the era names were changed frequently. The year 1253 was in the Kenchō era. 3 years later, in 1256, the era name changed to Kōgen, and the next year to Shōka. Then, 2 years later, in 1259, it was changed to Shōgen, the following year to Bunnō, and the year after that to Kōchō. In the 5 years from 1256 to 1261, the era name changed 5 times. An era name was usually changed only on the accession of a new emperor or when some natural disaster or severe proportions occurred. The frequency of these changes attests to the magnitude of the disasters that struck Japan during this period. Soon after the Daishonin's arrival, Kamakura and the country as a whole faced a series of disasters and conflicts that served to emphasize his conviction that the latter day of the law had indeed been entered upon. On the 6th day of the 8th month of 1256, torrential rainstorms caused floods and landslides, destroying crops and devastating much of Kamakura. In the 9th month of the same year, an epidemic swept through the city, taking many lives. During the 5th, 8th, and the 11th months of 1257, violent earthquakes rocked the city, and the 6th and 7th months witnessed a disastrous drought. Most frightful of all was an earthquake of unprecedented scale that occurred on the 23rd day of the 8th month. The year 1258 witnessed no lessening of natural calamities. The 8th month saw storms destroy crops throughout the nation, and floods in Kamakura drowned numerous people. In the 10th month of the same year, Kamakura was visited by heavy rains and severe floods. In the first month of 1258, fires consumed Jufuku-ji temple, and in 1259, epidemics and famine were rampant, and a violent rainstorm decimated crops. Nichiren Daishonin sought answers to the cause of these disasters in the scriptural writings of Buddhism. In an effort to clarify it, he went to Seichō-ji temple at Iwamoto in Suruga province, and he stayed there from 1258 through the middle of 1260. As a major temple of the Tendai school in eastern Japan, Seichō-ji housed many important sutras in its scripture library. The Daishonin pored over them all. As a result, Nichiren Daishonin found evidence for his theory in such sutra as the Benevolent Kings, Medicine Master, Great Collection, and Golden Light. He quoted passages from these sutras in the present text on establishing the correct teaching for the peace of the land, chronologically the first of his 5 major works. The work was originally written in classical Chinese and submitted to Hojo Tokiyori through the offices of high-ranking government officials Yadoya Mitsunori on the 16th day of the 7th month in the first year of Bunnō, 1260. Tokiyori was then living in retirement, but was still the most influential member of the ruling Hojo clan. The work occasioned no immediate reaction, and no official response was made to the Daishonin. But the members of the government were incensed at the rational but unrelenting attack that the work made on the Pure Land teachings of Honen and his followers. Government officials who were Pure Land followers apparently encouraged an attack made on the Daishonin's dwelling at Nagoe in Kamakura on the 27th day of the 8th month. The Daishonin narrowly escaped and made his way to the province of Shimosa to stay at the home of a follower. He returned to Kamakura early in the following year, 1261. He remained continually under the threat of persecution and was summarily banished to Izu on the 12th day of the 5th month of the same year. The work consists of a dialogue between a host and a visitor. The host represents Nichiren Daishonin, and the visitor, it is thought, represents Hojo Tokiyori. At the outset, the host lays the blame for the disasters that have befallen the country on the belief in an erroneous religion, the Pure Land teachings of Honen. Presented are numerous scriptural references to disasters that will befall a nation that follows false teaching. The Daishonin puts particular emphasis on a passage in the Medicine Master Sutra that describes 7 types of disasters that will strike such a nation. On these calamities, he points out 5 have already occurred, and the 2 calamity of invasion from foreign lands and the calamity of revolt within one's own domain have yet to occur. The Daishonin cautions that these will come about if the doctrines of the Lotus Sutra are not followed. Later, the prophecies of internal strife and foreign invasion were fulfilled when Hojo Tokisuke revolted against his younger half-brother, regent Hojo Tokimune, in 1272, and when the Mongols attacked Japan twice, in 1274 and 1281. In terms of its view of the relationship between the people's religious beliefs and the realization of a peaceful society, on establishing the correct teaching holds an important position in Nichiren Daishonin's writings. The Daishonin lived at a time of authoritarian government, and he probably felt that through an appeal to the most powerful members of the government, he could help bring about a reformation of society. That his appeal was ignored only spurred his unremitting effort to propagate his teaching for the peace and happiness of society, a task he would pursue to the end of his life.